Hi guys, it's Mrs. Kelley again, along with my friend Rowlf.
Hey everybody.
And we are here to finish Magic Treehouse number 20, Dingoes at Dinnertime, to see how Jack and Annie wrap up their adventure in Australia. When we left on chapter 8, Jack and Annie had found the fourth thing that they were looking for to help free Teddy from his spell. And then they were able to get back to Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. So I'll read a little bit of the end of chapter 8 and then we'll go on with chapter 9, okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so chapter 8 ended like this. They had just went back to see if the magic treehouse was still there, and it was. So Annie says, "It's still here." She grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack put Teddy in his pack and followed. Inside the treehouse, Teddy wiggled out. He pawed the Pennsylvania book. "Arf, arf!"
Arf, arf.
"Okay, okay," said Jack. He pointed at a picture of Frog Creek Woods. "I wish we could go there." "Over the rainbow," said Annie. And the wind started to blow, and the treehouse started to spin, and it spun faster and faster, and then everything was still. Absolutely still. All right, that was the end of the chapter. Now, chapter 9 is called What Boy? You ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, here we go. "Welcome back," came a soft, lovely voice. Jack opened his eyes. It was Morgan. They hadn't seen Morgan in a long time. "Morgan!" cried Annie. She threw her arms around the enchantress. Jack jumped up and hugged Morgan too. "It's so good to see you both," said Morgan. "Arf, arf!"
Arf, arf.
"And it's good to see you too," said Morgan, smiling at the little dog. "Look," said Annie. She reached into Jack's pack and pulled out a piece of painted bark. "A gift from a kangaroo." "We have all of our 4 gifts now," said Jack. "Good work," said Morgan. She picked up the first gift. It was the pocket watch from the Titanic. "Once upon a time, there was a boy who wasted time," Morgan said. "This watch teaches him that time is very precious. It must be used wisely." Morgan picked up the second gift, the eagle's feather from the Lakota Indians. "Sometimes the boy was afraid to stand up for himself," she said. "This eagle feather teaches him that a small creature can be one of the bravest." Here's a picture. Morgan picked up the lotus flower from the forest in India. "Sometimes the boy did not respect nature," she said. "This flower teaches him that nature holds many wonders." Morgan picked up the piece of bark with a painting of the rainbow serpent. "Sometimes the boy didn't want to study other times and places," she said. "This painting teaches him there is mystery, magic, and wisdom in the traditions of ancient people." "What boy?" Jack asked. "Who are you talking about?" said Annie. Morgan didn't answer right away. She placed her hands on Jack and Annie's shoulders. "Thank you," she said, "for helping this boy learn his lessons. Thank you for breaking the spell." "What boy?" Jack asked again. "Arf, arf,
Arf, arf.
arf!"
Arf.
Jack and Annie looked over at Teddy, and then something magical happened. A flutter in time. In the spin of a whirlwind, Teddy was changed. He was no longer a dog. He was a boy.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
You're right.
All right, well, that's the end of chapter 9. So here's the last chapter called Dreamtime.
All right.
All right, so I'll show the picture first. So here you can see the picture, and in that picture you see Morgan, Jack, Annie, and then that must be the boy. All right, chapter 10, Dreamtime. The boy was on the ground on his hands and knees. "Meet my younger helper from Camelot," said Morgan. The boy glanced up. He had a friendly, freckled face and twinkly dark eyes. His hair was the same color that Teddy's fur had been. He looked a bit older than Jack, about 10 or so. "Am I back?" he asked. "You're back," said Morgan. The boy leaped up and hugged her. "Thank you," he cried. "And I hope next time you'll ask before trying the spells in my book," said Morgan. The boy grinned sheepishly. "I promise." And then he looked at Jack and Annie. "I accidentally changed myself into a dog." Annie laughed. But at least I got to have exciting adventures as a dog, he said. You were a great dog, said Annie. We liked you as Teddy. What's your real name? If you like it, you can keep calling me Teddy, said the boy. Or how about Ted? Okay, Ted, said Annie. Jack just nodded. He was still in shock. Ted is training to work at my library in Camelot, said Morgan. He has a rare gift for magic. Cool, said Annie. You helped us a lot, Ted, said Jack, finally finding his voice. Oh no, it was both of you who helped me, said Ted. You helped me break the spell, and I found new stories to take home. You did? Said Annie. Ted nodded. The story of the Titanic, the story of the white buffalo woman, the story of the wounded tiger, and the story of the rainbow serpent, he said. I'll write them down as soon as I get home so people can read them in Morgan's library. And home is where we must go now, I'm afraid, said Morgan. Oh, Annie said sadly, that's too bad. Yeah, said Jack. He was sad too. I know we'll meet again someday, said Ted. I hope so, said Jack. Me too, said Annie. Bye. She started down the ladder. Jack pulled on his pack, and with a heavy heart, he followed. When they got to the ground, they looked up. Morgan and Ted were at the window. They both seemed to glow in the late afternoon light. The magic treehouse will return for you soon, said Morgan. I promise. She waved, and they waved back. Goodbye, Jack and Annie, she said. Arf!
Arf!
Said Ted. In a flutter of time, in a spin of a whirlwind, the magic treehouse was gone. For a long moment, Jack and Annie stared at the empty tree. Ready for dinner? Annie said softly. Jack nodded. He felt dazed as they walked silently through the Frog Creek woods. When they came to their street, the sun was setting. A flock of black birds flew through the silvery pink sky. Annie broke their silence as they headed to their house. We had great adventures with Ted, didn't we? She said. Yeah, said Jack. It was like, he searched for the right words. Like living in dream time, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack, and he smiled. That's exactly what it was like. And there's the end, Jack and Annie walking home. And this book, of course, ends with more facts for you and Jack. So at the back of this book, it gives you some different facts about Australia. It says, number 1, Australia is the world's smallest and flattest continent. The country of Australia is the only nation in the world to occupy a whole continent. The continent is almost 3 million square miles, or the size of the United States, without Alaska and Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah. Then it gives you a couple other facts. Talks about at one time all the continents on the earth were part of one huge land mass. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I know. Australia became separated from this mass about 200 million years ago. So because it's separated, its animals have evolved differently than those on the other continents. Then it tells you that in Australia there are 170 different kind of marsupials, including koalas, wombats, kangaroos, and wallabies, which are like kangaroos but only smaller. Yeah. The only marsupials that live outside of Australia are possums. Have you seen a possum in your neighborhood,
Oh,
Ralph? Yeah, me too. It talks about kangaroos have been in Australia for 25 million years. That's a long time.
Oh, yeah.
For every person in Australia, there are 10 kangaroos. And there are about 19 million people there, so that's a lot of kangaroos. It says dingoes were used as hunting dogs by the Aborigines. Koalas feed on gum trees, which are also known as eucalyptus. And people use the oil of eucalyptus trees for medicines, like when you have a cold or the flu. It also has a strong smell that a lot of people like. Then it talks about the rainbow serpent. I'll read this quick information about the rainbow serpent. It says, in Aborigine myth, the rainbow serpent not only brings rain, but also helped create the world. At the beginning of time, the rainbow serpent awoke from sleep and pushed through the earth's crust. As it traveled over the empty land, it left behind deep tracks. The rainbow serpent called to the frogs to come out from beneath the earth. It tickled the frogs' bellies, and when they laughed, water poured from their mouths. The water filled the rainbow serpent's tracks, making rivers and lakes. Grass grew. Then all the creatures, birds, lizards, snakes, kangaroos, koalas, and dingoes, and dogs, woke up and took their place on the earth. And that's all the facts that it gives you. So that brings us to the end of Jack and Annie's Australian adventure. Did you enjoy it, Rowlf?
Oh, yeah.
Me too. It was such a great story. Book number 21, which I'll read next, is called Civil War on Sunday. And it gives you a little bit of a thing in the back. It says, don't miss the next Magic Treehouse book in which Jack and Annie help a wounded soldier in the time of the war between the states. So we'll start that one next week. Also in the very back of this book, it shows a picture of the author, Mary Pope Osborne, and it tells you a little bit about her. Oh, look what she's holding, Rowlf. Her dog. Yeah, her dog. So it does say, so it says Mary Pope Osborne is the award-winning author of over 40 books for young people, including American Tall Tales, Favorite Greek Myths, and the Spider Cane Mysteries. She recently completed 2 terms as president of the Authors Guild, leading writers across the United States. So she's helped influence a lot of writers. She lives in New York City with her husband and their terrier, Bailey. Terrier's a type of dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They also have a cabin in Pennsylvania. Imagine that. A cabin in Pennsylvania where Jack and Annie are from. All right, Rowlf. Well, again, that brings us to the end of this book. I really enjoyed having you with me.
Oh, yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And if you want to join on the next one, you can. Or if not, that's up to you. You can decide that later.
All right.
All right. All right, boys and girls. If you want Rowlf to join me on the next adventure, let me know. You can let me know by sending me an email or responding to YouTube. Because I'm sure if Rowlf knows you want him to be there, he'll be there. All right? All right. Well, thanks so much. We'll see you later, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.